Hi, everyone. My name is Brittany Dejan. I'm letting you guys know that thanks for being here, those of you that are here now, and we're just going to give people another minute or two to show up and we will get started. All right, we will get this started then, so not to keep you waiting. And we have a really exciting discussion coming up today for everybody tuning in. Like I said, my name is Brittany Dejan. I'm founder and CEO of AbleThrive, and thank you to all of you for joining us today. Just for a little bit of background, AbleThrive is a health engagement platform to adapt and thrive with paralysis. So we have an online platform at AbleThrive.com where we share a lot of articles, videos, and products that help maximize quality of life and independence for people with paralysis and their families. And in that line, we really believe in living life to the fullest, and we're on a mission to enable people with paralysis and their families the tools and resources they need to adapt and thrive. So we've teamed up with Numotion today to talk more specifically about 3 products that they share that are really innovative mobility solutions and that enable that kind of freedom and independence that we believe in. Our goals today are that you're going to get all kinds of practical information about 3 specific products: the SoftWheel, Tek RMD, and the Kinova Robotic Arm. The second goal is you're going to be able to actually hear real-life accounts from 3 people who are using these products, and ultimately give you the tools to know whether or not these are the right products for you and if they could work for you, and the tools you need to reach out to Numotion if they are. Just a little quick overview as to how this is going to work. If we can click to the next slide. We are going to first give you an opportunity. We're going to hear from John Pryles from Numotion, who's going to give us a bit of an overview about those 3 products from a product perspective. And then once he shares with us, that'll take about between 10 and 15 minutes, then I'm going to moderate a discussion between David Poole, Karen Roy, and Gabriela Garbero, who are 3 people with disabilities who use these products, and we'll have a conversation about their lives and how these products have enabled their freedom. And so we'll just get it started, and it is over to John to get us started about these 3 products.
Great. Thank you so much, Brittany. Really, really excited to be here and have the opportunity to partner with you guys and share some of these exciting products. As just a quick, real brief overview before we get started, I love the mission. I love the vision you guys have. I really appreciate everything you said. We at Numotion a couple years ago decided to sort of develop what we call the MPI, New Product Intro team, and the goal of the team was really to find really innovative, really disruptive products that that filled a niche or created an opportunity that wasn't currently available in the marketplace. And so I think the 3 products we're going to go through today really represent that quite well. 2 of them we actually brought in from outside the United States and are really, really excited about. We've had a ton of good feedback, which hopefully you guys will get from the panelists today as well. But just super excited to be here and talking to everybody about this, and interested in questions and what people want to know more about them. So I'll start. Our first product was a product called SoftWheel. Andrea, I don't know if you can advance to the SoftWheel slide. But this was a manufacturer. They're based out of Tel Aviv, Israel, and they really kind of took a many centuries old technology in the wheel and kind of started from the ground up and said, hey, what can we do about this? And the interesting thing about SoftWheel is they exist in a couple of different platforms. So they do a lot in the bicycling industry. They do a lot in the automotive industry. And the guy that kind of brought them into the wheelchair industry was an Israeli fighter pilot who ended up with a spinal cord injury. And he was just in a tremendous amount of pain from pushing his chair around every day. Really, really active guy, really fit guy, but found himself not being able to spend a lot of time in his chair, and started thinking about it and hooked up with these guys. And out of that kind of discussion was sort of the genesis of SoftWheel. And the idea around SoftWheel is that it's an in-wheel suspension technology, which is, a fancy way of saying it's a shock absorber. And for me, when we first talked to SoftWheel, when we first brought this product to the market in the U.S., there was a ton of social media, and most of the social media, most of the stuff you saw was kind of extreme sports, right? It was guys going down flights of stairs. There was a video that went kind of viral of somebody bungee cord jumping in their chair. And so our first kind of look at this was, okay, this is a great chair for really active people. And then what we started to find out as we got these out in the marketplace was that there were a lot of people that were, like myself included, not extreme athletes, right? That really were getting a lot of benefits from this wheel, that weren't taking it down 2 flights of stairs, that weren't jumping off cliffs. And the feedback that we were getting was, listen, this is, as I spend all day in this chair and I'm going over curbs, I'm going across curb cuts, I'm going over varying terrain, all of those vibrations, all of that energy really stacks up. And by the end of the day, it's taken a toll on my back. I'm in a lot of pain, and I'm not able to do the stuff I really want to do. Our first customer that we ever had was a woman by the name of Alania who really wanted to go on vacation with her kids. Got the SoftWheels. We have a great story of her on the website about how she was able to stay out all day on vacation and is not completely alleviated, but gone a long way into helping her stay in her chair for a full day plus that, and really help kind of manage some of the pain and the shock. So the other feedback we've really gotten in this is it's opened up the ability for people to do more and not have as much angst when they're doing it. So I have a good friend of mine that works for us in Numotion, that's an end user as well, who got a set of wheels. And the difference he says, in just being able to go out in the community and not being as worried about going down curb cuts, not having to constantly find a way to get up or down something, about being able to go across different types of terrain, not having to avoid something, he said has been a life changer for him. I'm sure we'll hear more about that from our panelists. And then the other thing here is it doesn't have to be bought in conjunction with the chair. This is something that can be added kind of at any time. So potential users, obviously, you can kind of pick up on what I described. This is a manual wheelchair. Most of the people we find for it, which is certainly not to limit it to, not to say all the people, but most of the people that have bought this product are usually spinal cords that are in a K5, that are out and about, that are pretty active in their lifestyle. That said, though, we've also done a few of these for dependent mobility users, people that are in manual tilts, that had problems with spasticity or tone. A lot of times those were set off by environmental factors, and the wheels we put on those chairs have also really helped kind of manage some of that and make their ride a lot more comfortable. So it doesn't just have to be a K5, but that sort of active wheelchair user tends to be the one that really seek this out, that we work with. These guys have also just been involved in some research studies. Again, that information is available on their website, ours as well, where they've done a lot of double-blind kind of testing and looking at ease of propulsion, pain, a couple of really interesting things that I think people might find useful if they want more information after that. So let's switch to Tek RMD. Thank you, Andrea. So another really interesting product. This one comes from Turkey. Just a little bit of background. The engineer that developed this product was one of the engineers that was doing a lot with one of the exoskeletons, and he had a client that he was working with who had been using the exoskeleton for about 6 weeks, and the client looked at him and said, "This is great. Standing is awesome. I love it. When do I get to get rid of the forearm crutches?" And the engineer said, "Hey, listen, you don't. You got to have the forearm crutches to be able to get the balance." And he was like, "Well, what good is standing if I can't get something functional out of it?" And that kind of statement and that experience led this guy to kind of go back home and start figuring out what is a kind of device where somebody could stand and be really functional. And at the end of the day, what they came up with was the TEK. It's not a wheelchair. It's not designed to replace a wheelchair. It is designed to be a functional standing mobility device. And it's one of those devices when it first came out. I think when it was all said and done, between Mashable and Gizmodo and a couple of other social media sites, these guys had like 65 million hits on social media. I must have had 5 guys that I grew up with that had never heard of our industry send me emails being like, "Hey, have you guys seen this? This is really cool." So it was just interesting that this product was able to gain kind of so much interest from everybody inside and outside of our community. So the device itself, everybody, I hope at this point understands all the benefits around standing. Obviously, bone density, circulation, bowel and bladder management, spasticity management. And this is meant really to supplement your wheelchair, mainly for in the home use. And this allows someone to get out of their wheelchair, get in a full upright standing position. And then because they're not in a wheelchair, they don't have the wheels out in front of them, and they're able to be fully upright, it really allows them to engage with the environment, whether it's, accomplishing MRADLs, standing at the table. Karen, one of our panelists, has a great story about cooking gumbo and looking down at her 17-year-old now when he disrespects her. So maybe she'll share those with us, but just all the benefits associated in and around standing, both medically and psychosocially. I think this product has been really innovative in that. And then potential users for this one's really anyone that's been medically cleared by their physician to stand that thinks that they would benefit from standing. There is some amount of physical dexterity that's needed to kind of engage the handle, and then the gas assist pulls you up into the standing position. So our recommendation with this product obviously is, one, work with your physician and make sure it's okay to stand. And then, we're happy anytime, anywhere to set anyone who's interested up with a demo. They can try it out either with their therapist or at home and see if it makes sense for them. It's got an incredibly small footprint, so it's great for, if you're in an apartment or in a home. We've had a lot of cases of people who, because of this product, they didn't have to, if they lived in an apartment, they didn't have to modify the apartment, and they're able to be as accessible as they would be with the modification. So really exciting product there. And then our last one is the Kinova Robotics. As anybody who's been on the internet or on social media knows, there is a ton of activity right now around robotics and the advances they're making, whether it's in prosthetics or just kind of standalone robots. And this really is from the first mobile arm support years ago we were doing in clinics. It was held together by rubber bands and a tray, to this is just an incredible journey along technology. This moves. It's got 16 different movements in all. It really innovates a regular arm, the dexterity around the fingers, that you can see it holding an egg. It's an incredible product. And moving to the next page, this really allows, for the people that we've worked with this allows for more independence, more freedom. It's in many ways helped people be more autonomous and not as reliant on a caregiver. So we have kids that are using this in school, college-age students that are able to go to college without having to need a full-time caregiver, people at home. So it's a really innovative product. It opens up a lot of doors. It creates creates the opportunity for a ton of independence. And then last page, potential users for this one, really anyone who has any type of limited movement in their upper extremities. It attaches to any power chair. It's a relatively easy install. Training on it is pretty simple. And as you can see from the very cute guy in the picture there, it doesn't take long to learn, and our experience is pretty much anyone can use it that's able to operate a power chair. So all really exciting products, I think, all really unique in their space, and all really align with your mission at AbleThrive, Brittany, on really trying to drive independence and freedom for all. So I will pass it back over to you and get to the really important people, the panelists.
That's perfect. Awesome. Thanks, John, for taking the time to explain each of those products and give us some of the kind of practical background on what we're talking about. Now that all of you have, all of our attendees, you now have an idea of the products that we're using. And so I'm really happy to bring into the conversation David Poole, Karen Roy, and Gabriela Garbero. David is a SoftWheel user, Karen is the Tek RMD user, and Gabriela is the Kinova Robotics user. So now each of them is going to have a chance to share. We're going to just have a conversation with them and get a sense of their lives with these products and their lives before and how it's affected their freedom and independence. So David, Karen, and Gabriela, would love to have each of you just take a second and introduce yourself and a little bit about yourselves before we get started.
David, you want to go first?
David, if you could kick us off, and we'll go across from the photos so people can attach your face to the name.
Pro tip, you might be on mute. I do that all the time. Start talking and actually have my phone on mute.
You want me to start?
That helps.
Sure, that sounds good.
Okay. Hi, my name is Karen Roy. I have been in a chair I live in Louisiana. I've had a spinal cord injury for 30 years due to a gunshot wound in college. So I'm a T10 complete, and I have, since my time in rehab 30 years ago, tried to use different standing devices and electrical stem, any devices I could get my hands on. So I'm 30 years post-injury, and I use both the SoftWheels and the Tek RMD.
Well, that's good to know. You'll be able to weigh in on SoftWheels too then.
Yep.
Gabriela, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Go ahead. You can introduce yourself too. Yep.
Okay, good. I'm Gabriela Garbero. I live in St. Louis, Missouri, and I have spinal muscular atrophy, which affects all my voluntary muscles, so I can't move my hands around very well or my arms around very well. And I just got accepted to law school, so I'll be going there in the fall. And that's kind of why I was really, really interested in the robotic arm, was just to see what potentially I could do on my own, because I'll need to be a little bit more independent than I have been so far in life. So.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Congrats on getting into law school. That's awesome.
Thanks.
And David, are you here with us? All right. Sounds like we may have lost David, or he might have gotten disconnected. So if we can, maybe Mark, if you can check in with David and see if you can get him back on, and we'll have him introduce himself when he gets here. Karen, maybe you can maybe double duty for a little bit. Might have you speak a little bit about SoftWheel and Tek RMD. But just to get it first up, I would love to get a bit of a sense of your lives and the problems that you were facing before you guys were introduced to these products. So Gabriela, you started to mention it originally because this was inspired, or your interest in this product being inspired by getting into law school. So can you tell us a little bit about, kind of the limitations that you've been experiencing previously?
Sure. So I am actually lucky enough to be able to have a caregiver full time, but it's really difficult to manage that when you're also managing going to school. And I've only gone to my undergraduate school, so I haven't even gone to like a really heavy-duty thing like law school. But having internships and other things, it's just really difficult and it's expensive to have a caregiver all the time. And so not being able to move my arms, that really affects a lot of things. So I can't drive, I can't push elevator buttons, I can't really open doors on my own. And so a few years ago, we got in touch with Kinova and did a demo at my home about how to use the robotic arm, and it was amazing. Like, just being able to feed myself if I wanted to feed myself and open the door if I wanted to open the door. I was able to, I actually was able to use the little fingers on the arm to put a DVD into the DVD player and then grab the remote off of the floor. Like, I've never been able to be that independent. And that's just a boring thing that most people do at home and they don't even think about it. But the idea of being able to, you know, when I'm in school, get books off of bookshelves and go to different levels of the building through the elevator on my own without needing a person there to help me, is just, it would really be life-changing. It would really, really be cool.
That's really awesome. Karen, what you've been in a chair for a couple decades now. So from your perspective, what made you be interested in looking for a better standing solution, or what had you been doing previously? Karen, you might be on mute.
I'm sure I am. So the standing devices that were available to me 30 years ago, there were some standing frames, not pretty standard. You couldn't function. Now they have them where you can use exercise for your upper body and a little bit more of a platform surface. But so I used some standing frames, but I also used what they call a reciprocating gait brace, which is a big orthotic, and you have to use a rolling walker and you have to be able to shift your weight from side to side. So I have no hip flexor, so it was extremely difficult to get in and out of them, extremely difficult to stand for really long periods of time because you're using a ton of upper body strength. And I would kind of, stiff leg, sort of shifting my weight left to right, walk to a countertop, and then sort of stand there. But since I couldn't use my arm, I couldn't do anything functional, which was frustrating. So I was doing it simply for the health benefits of standing. And then I demoed the exoskeleton, and which was another large, robotic device from the exterior. But like John was saying earlier, you still have to use long strands or walker to be able to keep your balance. And not only that, I believe that particular device was only FDA approved for clinical use, and you had to have a therapist with you. And I've been completely independent for 30 years. I was married, and I have 3 kids, and so waiting around for someone else is really not my style. So when I found out about this, it was life-changing for me. As soon as I demoed it, I knew that I had to figure out how to buy one, and I use it every day, cooking, standing to work, anytime I'm not out of town or in my home environment.
That's awesome. And I'm curious, you also mentioned that you're a SoftWheel user too. So, I imagine wheelchairs over the last 30 years might look a little bit different than when you first started. What was some of the things that made you, or some of the challenges that led you to think SoftWheel would be a solution for you?
So anytime you're on a terrain that's not smooth, cracked sidewalks, any sort of bumpy terrain, it causes a lot of strain in your back and in your neck, because that's what's absorbing all the shock as you go over those bumps. And so last summer I was in Europe with my daughter, and I was recently in another country. And so whenever, especially in New Orleans, is about an hour from where I live, and it's very old, and so you're going over constant bumps. And without that, I wouldn't be able to work a full day. I also cover New Orleans for my job, and it's alleviated a lot of back pain. And it also has an added benefit of improving the efficiency of your push. So when you are pushing, and John may be able to better explain the physics of that phenomenon, but I can give a one push on the chair and go much further. So pushing myself around long distances is much easier with the SoftWheel.
Awesome. That's great to know. So David, is David back?
Yes, I'm here.
Awesome. Good to have you, David, and not on mute.
Sorry.
I'd love to hear, I know Karen just weighed in a little bit on SoftWheel. I wasn't sure if you were connected. So I'd love to hear from you, first if you could introduce yourself a little bit and then weigh in a little bit on some of the challenges that you were facing that led you to be thinking about a SoftWheel.
Great. I'd love to. My name is David Poole, and I'm from Montana. I'm a T6 complete paraplegic. I've been in a wheelchair for 12 years now. I live an outdoor lifestyle. I do a lot of fishing and camping, hunting, skiing, biking, and I'm always doing things outdoors, and a lot of things outdoors aren't very smooth. So having some sort of suspension involved without having to get a whole entire new wheelchair was a pretty incredible experience.
That's awesome. And so all of you, it sounds like the process for this, just so if anyone else is interested in pursuing these products, it sounds like each of you had done a demo process. I guess my question and you guys can each answer, but how did you even find out about these products as being an option, and what was that demo process like, or how did you make that happen?
If I can start, I would say my friend introduced me to him years ago, showed me a link and said, hey, check these things out. And I was really intrigued. I was like, wow, that is so cool to have suspension inside your wheel. And from there, it was just a matter of time before I finally got my hands on them and got to try them. It might have been a few years before I actually saw them in real life.
Karen?
This is Karen. Yeah, I have the good fortune of now working for Numotion. Prior to that, I was a social worker in rehab hospitals for years, so I kept up with the ATPs and the new technology, but I was able to be introduced to it at one of our national meetings and get in it and try it. And there's a lot of other people with disabilities that work for Numotion, and we were all in line, and I didn't want to get out of it. Yeah, it was there's a video of me and I'm acting like an idiot because I think I'm adrenaline high just off of the being standing and being so mobile and getting across the room and talking to people eye level. Yeah, that was an amazing experience. I told everybody right then, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to have to do to get one of these, but I'm going to figure it out.
Hey, it's John. Sorry, I was just going to say, hey, it's John Prowse. I was just going to say about the demos. Anyone that's interested in a demo, you can certainly go online, and at the end of this, there's a page that will have a bunch of contact information. But if you get in touch with us, we have demo programs around both SoftWheel, the TEK, and can also set something up with Kinova. So anyone that's interested, we're happy to facilitate that.
Great to know. Thanks, John. And Gabriella, you had mentioned that you are in the demo process right now, or the things that you had mentioned, were those discovered for you through your through the demo? And was that correct?
Yeah. So a long time ago, well, not a long time, but probably about 5 or 6 years ago, my dad happened to be looking at assistive technology online and literally just happened upon a blog of a girl who had a robotic arm, and she had done the blog as kind of like an advertisement for the arm because she was helping sell it out on the West Coast. And so he got in touch with the person in charge, and I remember kind of being doubtful and being like, I don't really need a robotic arm, like I have an arm. Like I always kind of thought that, you know, robotics and really heavy-duty assistive technology like that was meant for, you know, people who maybe didn't have an arm, who needed like a prosthetic. But I'm really glad that he followed through because he was like, no, it'll be really good for you. And then they all ended up coming to our house, and we invited people from all around the Midwest to come to our house and look at how the arm worked. And they set it up with my wheelchair and with some friends of mine's wheelchairs. And then I did another demo recently because I'm trying to get the ball rolling. My situation was a lot like Karen described hers. Like, once I did it, I was like, okay, this is going to happen. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I have to have this. It's too big of a benefit to ignore it, you know?
Yeah, that's pretty powerful to Karen. I would love, maybe we can, when we do a webinar follow-up, maybe if there's a link to that video, you could show people what it felt like.
It's pretty funny. Yeah.
It sounds like it might be. So, I mean, you guys each have kind of weighed in a little bit already on how you're using these products, or at least Karen, you said that you're using the Tek RMD every day, and I'm imagining for you guys, for David and Karen, your SoftWheels are on your chair all the time. And Gabrielle, do you anticipate that the arm would also be something that you would use every day, or just how do you foresee that this is going to be helping you?
Oh, for sure. It actually attaches to like the joystick of my wheelchair, and so it's just a different mode. Like I have a complex power wheelchair, a Permobile, and it's just an additional mode. So I use my original joystick for it. It's just on a different mode, like I keep saying. And so yeah, it would be useful 24/7. Well, not 24/7, but all the time that I'm in my wheelchair during the day, which is all the time that I'm not asleep. So definitely, it would be helpful to open doors. So at home and out, we rent our house, so the doors aren't really ideal for me getting in and out of the house myself. But it would be if I had the robotic arm, and it would also help if I ever wanted to move to not have to worry about, you know, little things like that I think people take for granted when they're able to open doors easily.
And that's good to know. So the robotic arm then is a modification on the joystick of your chair. Karen and David, I guess Karen first, what is it like kind of practically in terms of you switching into the chair or not, or how do you manage the time you spend in the Tek RMD versus your normal wheelchair?
So this is much easier to transfer into than the RGO braces or the standing frame because it charges in my room and I have a remote for it. So I'm able to remote it, bring it to me, drive it to me, and then I transfer off the end of my bed and directly, because it's up front, you transfer from the front. So I put my feet in it and strap the sling around me and then kind of strap things up. It's really easy to get in and out of. So if I am standing up working, because I have a Veridesk at home, and I sit every day, but I'm on the road a lot, so I don't take it with me when I'm on the road. But other than that, when I'm able to work from home or leisure time, I can get in and out of it easily. So I can stand and work for a couple of hours, and then if I need to go use the restroom, I get back out, get in my chair, and go, whatever I need to do. Because, and I remember feeling like with the RGO braces, especially, that I'd done a full workout by the time I got up, and then it was very energy consuming while I was up. So this, I can stand, use my arms, reach into cabinets I've never gotten into before. Like John was saying, in Louisiana we make gumbo. We make things in big pots because we feed a lot of people. And prior to a year ago, I was having to like do all my starting from a seated position, not really seeing what was in the pot. I do have 3 kids. The youngest is now 6'2". He's 18, and it's a completely different dynamic. And I think that's the joy that you see on my face. It's just no words to really describe it. So yeah, easy to get in and out of, and you know.
But predominantly you're using it in your home life, around the house.
Correct. Yes. You can transport it like you would a power chair. So like if you had a Permoville, you would need a lift, because you can fold it down and you can put it on a lift. You can get it up a ramp. And so I've taken it some different places, but typically it's mostly for in my home. And you can go over small thresholds. I can go out of my driveway or out of my patio. It's not meant for really big inclines, but you can push it down to a seated position. That's the other nice thing. When you are standing in it, if you feel like your blood pressure drops, so you need a little bit of a break, you can push it into a seated position. It's not necessarily meant to be in all day, but I can stay in it for 3 hours. And I have not had any infusions for my osteoporosis, but I just got a bone density test done, and in the last year, since my last bone density test, my bone density has improved with no drugs in my system. So I've also never had a pressure sore because I stand. I've not had a lot of urinary tract infections. All the medical problems that go along with a spinal cord injury, I've been able to prevent by standing a lot. So.
Wow. I was already sold on the ability to cook your own gumbo, and now you even had I mentioned the medical benefits that you experience.
Yeah.
And so in addition, go ahead.
I was just going to say, not to interrupt, I'm sorry, I know I'm not welcome.
Oh, no, go for it.
I think that's one of the things that people really underestimate and don't realize is that assistive technology can really help your health, because you're less tired throughout the day. And like you said, you've never gotten a pressure sore. I have. It's horrible. And that's amazing that you haven't. And imagine, if everybody could be like that, it would just be really cool. And I wish, insurance companies and other places would see the benefit of this kind of assistive technology, because it's expensive, but it does pay for itself in the end, because you don't have to go to the ER for stuff like that. You don't have to go to the hospital. You don't have to have follow-up medical appointments for stuff like that, because it's really serious to have that.
Yeah, you're funny you should mention that, because this year I'm Miss Wheelchair Louisiana 2018. My whole platform is about standing and other technologies that help to keep people healthy, because in our goal, my personal goal, and then part of the Numotion goal as well, is to, if you look at this in the long run, it's a lot more cost effective. Although these devices seem expensive, they're a lot cheaper than one pressure sore, one trip to, wound care, a whole round of antibiotics. And so that's kind of my next mode in life, is really screaming this from the rooftops and trying to get the attention of the powers that be that say that this is, that this is kind of, lagniappe, as we say in Louisiana, which is something extra. I don't think it is something extra. I think it's something that it's our right. I mean, I think it's our right to be able to stand and use these technologies like everyone else does to prevent injury and live a long life and pay taxes, become a lawyer, right?
Yeah. I agree. I'm right there with you.
That's awesome. And congratulations on your title, Karen. I feel like we got a lot of congrats to pass around today.
Yeah.
So David, what kinds of benefits, either physically or even mentally, emotionally, have the SoftWheels provided you? I mean, you had mentioned that you have an active lifestyle, but has this enabled you to do new or different things, or the things that you've wanted to do better? What has it been for you?
Well, physically, the things that have enabled me to do better is if I have to go off a curb, if I have to drop a few stairs. I have more control when I'm on the stairs. I don't bounce off the stairs, so that's a plus, and I can be independent. I don't have to have somebody hold me and take me down the stairs. As an athlete and kind of a daredevil, I tend to find stairs, but in other ways, that having a wheel with suspension in it, it looks really nice. It's a great conversation starter. Not only does it help my back and the pain that it's involved in all the bumps, it looks really nice, and it looks new. The word I'm looking for, it just looks very
cool,
very clean, very clean.
Yeah, and I was going to say, with traveling, I'm on an airplane a lot, and even my carbon fiber tires are very lightweight, which is great, but I've broken more than one spoke being in and out of airplanes, and these SoftWheels are nearly indestructible. They're very solid, and I don't have to worry about getting somewhere and then not having a tire, because clearly that is a problem.
And yeah, that's a very good point. Anytime you go out into the mountains with your buddies and you throw your wheelchair in the back of the truck, sometimes they're not very careful, and if you end up breaking a wheel in the middle of nowhere, you're in trouble. So having some durability is very key for me, and that's one of the things that I like about the SoftWheels.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that, because you don't have quite as many things to break. My dad's a quadriplegic too, and I've been on planes with him, and the whole spoke situation is real. So I can hear you guys on that.
Yeah.
And Karen, you were mentioning cooking, but is there, and that sounds like something you really enjoy, and I can imagine you sound like you've got quite a few mouths to feed as well. But are there any other activities that you've discovered or been able to do that you've enjoyed in your home by standing?
This is going to sound super boring, but it's really laundry, like things that I just simply can't reach without assistance. That I'm pretty good at getting like a stick or a reacher of some sort and getting things down, but they typically you're knocking them down and it can hit you in the face. So I can reach everything I want to reach, and I can find everyone's hiding places in the top of their closets. That was some interesting finds. But just, to me, I don't have to be doing anything other than watching TV or a movie or standing up watering my plants outside on the patio. It brings me a whole nother level of activity, and knowing that I'm getting healthier while I do it. I'll turn 50 in July. But so I've got to really be careful about
Happy early birthday.
Thanks. Yeah, I don't know. But I have to worry about my bone density. I would even if I wasn't paraplegic. So, but especially now. But yeah, no, anything I can do sitting, I can do now standing, reaching spices, reaching things in cabinets, standing to the hanging baskets that I water outside, and just talking to people, to be honest. And
when you mentioned that specifically about the Tek RMD, you mentioned that you can put it to a seated position,
yes.
Which, if you need to. What is the mobility like when you're seated like that? Or do you typically transfer them into your wheelchair if you need to move around?
Well, no, you can go in a seated position, but then it kind of feels a little bit more like a scooter. So the footprint on the Tek RMD is super small, which means you can get flush to your countertop, flush to your bathroom sink, flush to your Christmas tree if you're decorating it, which is what comes to mind, because this is the first year I ever decorated the top of my cushion, because I'm kind of a control freak about where the ornaments go. And I'm always like, no, a little to the left, like just right there. Now I did it myself, and I would push myself into a seated position, grab an ornament, and then go back up. Your footprint is larger when you're pushed down to the seated position, but sometimes your back just needs a rest from standing up. You don't want to get all the way out of the Tek because you're not, you still want to use it, but your back just needs a little rest. Or also if when you're first using it, you may have to go up and down a bit to get that, regulate your blood pressure. And you can do that anytime, or, just give your lower back a little bit of a break. So it's nice.
And is it a one or the other, or can, in terms of up or down, or can you drop a little bit drop a little bit?
Process?
Is it smooth going up and down? for you?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you have to. So the further down you get, the harder you have to give a little bit more of a push, from that seated position. But yeah, you can just go down a little bit. You can go down way down if you're trying to reach something on the floor, and then stand back up. I'm a complete pair up, so I have full upper body strength. But there are users that are not really in a power chair that maybe are not ready for a power chair, but they would like to be standing. They may, from the lowest position, maybe a little bit of assistance for like a push up. It's not that hard because there is like a hydraulic assist on it. But the further down you go, the little bit of a harder push it is. But you can get it at multiple different levels.
Awesome. And in terms of the SoftWheel, David, do you use other wheels, or has this become your full-time wheel, or is it specifically for when you're going outdoors, or how is this used? How are you, or what decides that for you?
No, my SoftWheel is on my chair full-time. I use it every day, whether I'm going to the grocery store or if I'm headed out camping for the weekend. It's the same wheel, and it works great in both places. It doesn't sag when you don't need it to. So it works just as normal as a normal wheel would until you encounter any kind of obstacle, and then it will absorb some of that shock. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Just sometimes I feel like when, considering it would be looked at as like a specialty wheel, I didn't know if it was used if you were using it under certain circumstances or not. Karen, would you say that that's similar for you for the times that you are using your wheelchair, or do you have other?
Yeah. I use these most of the time now. Once something goes on my chair, I guess I'm pretty lazy about changing it. I take my chair apart several times a day. But like he was saying, you purchase these by body weight, so that you don't have any spring-like action as you are just pushing your wheelchair. So your weight will determine exactly which tire you get, which makes it feel like a completely solid tire on regular surfaces, which is great. And no, I just switch back and forth. Very rarely do I switch them out. I've been traveling a lot though, so it's easier just to keep them on because I know that nobody, knock on wood, I don't think they're extremely durable. So
that's an interesting point about the body weight. I didn't consider that. So that's a part of this. Part of it is getting measured so you're going to have that stability when you're not needing the hydraulic or suspension.
Correct. Yes. It's solid when you're on a regular surface, and you can tell if a heavier person goes to sit in my chair, they're going to get that sag like he was talking about, and the in-wheel suspension that doesn't happen because it goes by your weight, your body weight.
Right.
That's awesome. Okay. And so really, if you consider your guys, all three of you, I'd love to hear from you, kind of as I have two more questions. But first, I'd like to get a sense, really, if you think about your lives before these products became a part of them and today, what has been the overall, like if you can encapsulate it in a sentence or two, how has it affected your sense of freedom and independence? Because really what we were talking about here, and this is kind of how it ties into the values that AbleThrive and Numotion shares, making sure people can live their life to the fullest. And so what have these products, again, looking back in time into today, what has that meant to you?
Well, for me, sorry.
Oh, God. I'm so sorry. We keep doing this to each other. I was just going to say, for me, like, I need a lot of help with stuff right now. And, people who help me get tired or get frustrated or get busy, and so having a robotic arm would really, I think, help me to just feel like less of, like, not a burden, but less of like a, I would be less dependent on other people, and I'd be able to feed myself and move things around myself, and like I said, open doors and do elevator buttons and get books off the shelf and all kinds of stuff. So I'm very, very excited to be getting this arm, because I think it'll help with pretty much everything that I would need to do throughout the day, except for like getting in and out of my wheelchair, which I would still need help with. But if that's it, then that's a very small portion of my day. So.
I was going to say the same thing. I used to have a house full of people, but the last one just graduated from high school, and so I'm often here by myself. So things that I normally would have just asked someone walking by, can you grab this for me, or can you grab that? I don't have to ask for help. I know that I can do it as soon as I get in the door. And as far as my time goes, I work full time and super busy. And so if I can combine standing and working or standing and cooking, I have more time in my day. Before it was like an exercise, which to be honest didn't happen a lot because I don't have a ton of extra time. So combining those functions is it's also efficiency of time issue.
I agree. I mean, those are wonderful, points. And the soft wheels for me, if I didn't have wheels on my wheelchair, I wouldn't be going anywhere. So it offers complete independence and freedom from being stuck at home. Granted, I could have any wheel on my wheelchair, but to have a wheel that is innovative and new technologies available, it's amazing, and it really boosts your self-confidence when out and about to know that you have one of the top-of-the-line wheels on your wheelchair.
It's awesome. And really just we're getting to the end now of the webinar. It's been really awesome to hear your guys' experiences and understanding how these products have enhanced your freedom and independence. The last thing, that I just wanted to throw out, you guys encapsulated perhaps this in the last row of answers, but really if there's any final thoughts or things that you wish you knew, or things that, what might you have needed to hear before you owned these products that might benefit our webinar attendees?
One of the things I would like to say, I'll go ahead, Karen.
Yeah.
Is that they're always improving. There's always going to be, every year they're going to come out with a new model, and it's going to get better and better. And it's great to be part of that.
Yeah. I do get a lot of comments on my soft wheels as well. People are intrigued by them. So I agree with the conversation starter piece. Plus, when you are sporting a really cool looking chair, it does make you feel kind of better about yourself. I would say don't let the price of these things scare you off, because if it is something that you really want, I would encourage you to start saving, start a GoFundMe, and then we have care credit through Numotion. So if you save part of the money and then you want to finance part of it, that is also an option with Numotion, and we'll have all that contact information up. But, I had to do some saving, and I had to do some lifestyle changes. You may not be able to get your fingernails done, or, but this is about not just looking cool, but it's about being healthy to me, and I'm willing to make some sacrifices in other parts of my life. But don't count out state trust funds or vocational rehab for the Tek RMD. There's always a possibility of that. But look into all your financial options before you just, kibosh the idea, because it's worth the time and effort you're going to put into it, and it's life-changing.
Yeah, I definitely second the cost thing. I did put the kibosh on it a few years ago. After I did my initial demo with the arm, I thought, wow, I'm never going to have this much money. Nobody's ever going to want to pay for that, because, it's just not going to happen with healthcare being the way it is. But it took me actually applying to school and getting accepted and really seriously thinking about going back to convince me, like, okay, I need to really take this seriously and buckle down and figure out how to solve this problem. Because I don't like change. I don't like having to go through, all the hoops to buy new things that might not work. But in my opinion, not liking change is a personal thing. It's not a health thing. Your health sometimes needs you to make changes. And so don't be afraid if you think, oh man, I'm going to climb a mountain to get this thing. Because in the end, the time will pass either way. And you might as well make it past when you're doing something helpful for yourself and to where you can look back and say, I'm so glad I did that. I'm really glad that I initially said yes to the demo for my robot arm because I know it's going to make a huge change in my life once I get it.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you all for sharing for really sharing your experiences and how these products have improved your freedom and independence. Now, we're just about closing up here, and so we want to just, on behalf of AbleThrive and Numotion, want to thank you all for attending, and know that you've now heard about these 3 products that can have the impacts that they have or are having the impacts that you heard from these users. So if you'd like to learn more about these products, you can set up a demonstration or buy them. On the screen right now, there's information. The phone number for those of you calling in, the phone number is 877-876-5332. Or you can email tim.fuller, Fuller, @numotion.com, and that's NUMOTION.com. Or you can visit www.shopnumotion.com. And we'll definitely follow up with everyone who's registered with the information on how to, all this information will be sent to you. So if you didn't catch it this time or can't see the screen, we'll make sure you get it. But it sounds like if you think that one of these products could help enhance your freedom and independence, then you should reach out and try one out. But thank you again to everyone for attending, and we'll hope to see you again on a future webinar.